Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Flatzoid, Chocolate Saiyan, 10th Man, Neil, Paul, did I miss anyone? Brian, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hey, everybody.
Great to be here.
Oh, that's a very warm welcome to all of you in the Discord and G+ panels. I normally get an interruption there. Fair enough. Any evidence of physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, not even from the driving range.
You do get slope angles, but that's not geometric radius, though.
Any more for any more? Earth curve? Anybody? Anybody at all?
Well, you can't see it. Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see it from 50,000 feet, something like that. I've never seen it from a plane at almost 40,000 feet. I've never seen it. I've never seen the Earth curve.
You can't see math from a. You can't see math from a plane. Thank you.
Math?
Yeah. Yeah, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. There is no physical geometric sphere edge horizon for us to see. Not such a thing exists. It only exists in the maths. Chocolate's right.
I bet the astronaut that left the ISS seen it.
But it doesn't even exist in the math anymore, thanks to the Black Swan.
Hold on, I think Neil has got something tailing off from the pre-show. What was that you say, Neil?
I said I bet the astronaut, after his 6-month stint on the ISS, landed on Earth today. I bet he's seen the curve of the Earth.
Okay, so what's the ISS?
International Swimming Station.
I know where this is going, and where is it supposedly? It's in a violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
Well, there's two. There's two ISSs. There's one that's been labelled that and is a light in the sky. There's also one on a sound stage with men on high wire that claims to be in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Now, one we can see, it's a light in the sky. The other is claimed to be in a sky vacuum. Therefore, all of that version of events from that soundstage with the men on high wire, who are liars, that is automatically fake because it's claimed to be taking place in somewhere that doesn't exist. 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, outer space, which is fake. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Just look at my screen.
No.
If you have volume, you have containment.
That's a nice container. What's the purpose of this, Arwin?
I don't know. It was
Show
just
the other one, Arwen.
yeah, but that one was edited. This is really as is.
No, it's not.
The retard chamber.
Those were.
So it's
Yeah,
designed to
it's a
destroy
fire
the
rate.
gas.
Okay, I'll show the other one. Let's see if here. See?
What?
This is not. This has to be edited. This can't be real.
No, it's not because there's a company named Globe that does that.
What?
Yeah, bro.
No way.
So you're showing containers
Yes.
because containers.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Remember the Bob the Science guy? This is the proof. There you go.
Okay.
Well, do you see what it says on the container, Nathan? Though.
Globe retard. Container.
Yeah, globe retard chamber.
It's
Chamber
retard.
model.
Retard means to hold back. That's what retard means. To retard. To hold back. So the globe bit is the company name that makes the product. To retard is the function. Chamber, obviously. And then it gives the model number.
Well, maybe they're just putting a spin on it.
Yeah, it's just the way it's put together that actually.
Yeah, globe, retard, chamber, model. Oh yeah.
What is it retarding? What is it retarding? I'm just wondering.
That's the globe
retarding.
retarded.
Gas, probably slowing it down by making the area that it has to fill bigger. It's Boyle's law.
So it's not gravity retarding it?
You have to context some of this stuff or people will get very confused.
I look at it like anyone who believes in a globe model is a retard and you should put them in a chamber.
No, that's not what it means. Okay, look, and hold your prejudice aside, right?
Okay, well, other than this, no proof for gas pressure without a container.
Other than this
Sorry.
subtle and amusing aside by utilization of several layers of humour. I love it.
All right.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
Globers.
I was going to say, come on, Discord.
The guy yesterday was talking about how far away everything was, and remember that?
No.
Was that yesterday?
How far do they claim the sun is now? What's the heliocentric claim?
They just base it all on R.
I've heard they shot a radar at the sun. That's what I've heard.
As we're going to ask for distance to the sun and we're going to get into the details, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius. It's utilised to assume Earth's a sphere, then assume Venus is the same size sphere as Earth is assumed to be, so then you can apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. That's a right mouthful.
There's a lot of assumptions there.
Yeah, there is. So any evidence of the R value, the most critical one.
Black Swan.
Yeah, the glober would say we know the distance to the sun.
Yeah, but we know all the assumptions they've employed to get there. So, what, just chant their fundy belief at us? Right, 10th?
Right.
Yeah, that's what they do. Circular reasoning all the time.
Yeah, how did they establish that knowledge? Is there any touchdown in reality somewhere? Right?
Oh, you had to segue it back onto the tangibility of the sun. We don't know what it is. It's intangible.
Well, like I said, they've shot a radar out there. If it bounces something back, that means it's something tangible, right?
Out where? Oh, God, we've got to do this again. Didn't we just cover gas pressure early? Out where now? Up where in the what now?
Well, I mean, it's away from us. So if I'm shooting something at it, it's out there somewhere. I didn't say where it was at. I said it's out there somewhere. I didn't say where it was at.
And where is there? And what is there exactly according to them? How much higher pitch do you need me to go?
Oh, it's supposed to be a sky vacuum.
A sky vacuum, you say?
And I just actually just thought of something. So can radar bounce off of gas?
Is there helium in the air?
I don't know. Paul's just utilised his ability to non sequitur away from him being a baller temporarily. Cognitively, even this is painful for you, right? Non sequitur needed. What was that about bouncing stuff off gas? And the sky vacuum is gas, is it? Go on, Paul.
Did somebody open a helium tank over there?
Go on, Paul might actually have a finale. That's the one.
You cannot bounce radar off of gas, I guess. Bounce it off solids and liquids, but you can't bounce it off of gas.
And it's going through gas, is it? Or do we all just go high-pitched and then forget about it? You're doing a good job of pretending to be a glober. You always do, Paul.
What do you mean things don't bounce off gas? I thought they were bouncing off.
I'm talking about radar. Radar. They're talking about radar. They said they saw the radar out there at this thing that looks like it's in the sky. it's supposed to be either plasma or gas. I didn't think plasma, or, you can't bounce radar off plasma or gas, can you? I didn't think so. It's a gas ball.
Off gas? Where exactly?
In a second law thermodynamics violation place.
So we're assuming it's gas. We're assuming it sits directly in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. And we're assuming it's in a sky vacuum that we can measure stuff through. So the medium is wrong. The item we're looking at is assumed to be something in violation of natural law. This is complete nonsense. It's a pleasure discussing it, though. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope, I land on the same spot.
Oh yeah, we discussed this in the pre-show. So become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. That'll come out on Sunday on the second channel. Or if you don't want to give me money, which is perfectly understandable, you can still see it a few days later. So subscribe to my second channel, link in the info box. But that discussion was primarily about the complete cock-up on Simon Dan's part, mainly because Anthony Riley and I were discussing the fact that this isn't actually a new occurrence. It's a year old, and I've consistently been on Simon Dan's back to address his egregious error. Now, obviously, I've ramped things up in the last couple of weeks, but by the same token, it's a year-old issue that's still yet to be addressed. Any evidence? Go on, or is it Donald something? Don? Go, Don. You're flashing, but I can't hear you, my friend. Well, maybe not. Moving on. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
The sun's cousin.
No, I think it's more likely we'll find dinosaurs down there in big caves than a molten iron core.
Just get a sound.
Wait,
Hold on
so-
one sec. Just one sec. Can I get a sound check from Discord? Anybody? Ryan, maybe?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure it wasn't my end. Okay, sorry, whoever I interrupted. Arwin and Chocolate.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think it's more likely we'll find giant caves with dinosaurs in them and weird creatures than a molten iron core. Because, yeah, if there are things down there, that does not necessarily directly imply a core, even though, was it Jules Verne who did that story through the center of the Earth? You know, to suggest it.
So you're saying Jurassic Park is underneath our feet?
I think that has a bigger likelihood than a molten iron core. See?
Yeah, why not?
Core kind of
go with that.
auto implies the globe, which is definitely not the case. So, yeah, there could be things down there, but I don't think there's any huge lava mass that basically encompasses practically the entire surface of the Earth beneath us. No.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Reification fallacy.
Good answer.
Scientific evidence of a conception?
Yeah, that's right. Another good answer.
What's the speed of a gravitational wave?
I don't know what you're babbling about. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Give him some time, Nathan.
Boom, boom.
Well,
You're on fire today.
And a little bit of space.
I just have to shout out Tent Man on his latest video on science. Thanks. I'm sending it to every globe I can get hold of.
Let's spread the net. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, Dr. Becky says she does it while listening to iTunes and responding to email.
Well, how can you do an experiment if you're just looking in a telescope?
Well, she's looking at a computer screen.
Oh, she's not even looking at a telescope.
It might be a picture coming from a telescope, or said to be, but she's doing science. How's that science?
How's he manipulating her Independent variable.
We're not even asking
with the
for
escape button.
that. We're not even asking for that, though. Same go to you, Neil. We're not asking them for an experiment. Just a viable hypothesis. Not validated. Not experiment. Just a viable hypothesis. From any of them.
Well, what would be the error margin? Can they be off by a factor of 10,000?
It's not like that's a viable independent and dependent variable now, is it? Off by a margin. That sounds very mathematical, Arwin.
Damn it, you caught me.
But we're not looking for conclusions, is my point. A viable hypothesis is a supposition yet to be validated in scientific vernacular. It's a scientific prediction. We're saying, give us a scientific prediction. You don't have to validate it. You don't have to give us an experiment. Just give us a valid prediction. A valid scientific prediction. That's a hypothesis. A cause and effect relationship. That would be a dependent variable. They've got plenty. They've got plenty of phenomena to study. Then, the presumed, yet to be validated, cause of that effect. In a supposition that is capable of validation. That would be your independent variable meets the 3 criteria. It's real. It's your presumed cause, and you can actually bloody vary it. Right? So long as you've got that, it's presumed to be a cause, it's real, and you can vary it. You've got an independent variable, that would be a presumed cause of an effect that they've observed, and they observe plenty. So it shouldn't be that hard to get a valid scientific prediction. Not the validation, but just the prediction, just the independent and dependent variable, alternative and null. That's it. That's all we want.
You can't manipulate something you can't touch.
You're assuming what they're going to do. I'm not putting words in their mouth. I'm not saying you can't vary gravity. No. Nothing like that. I'm not telling them what the independent variable, yet to be validated presumed cause of the effect they're observing, and they've got plenty, should be or shouldn't be. I'm not saying that it will or won't be the cause. We just want to see a valid scientific prediction from any of these, let's get it clear, pseudoscience fields. They're just any valid hypothesis. That's it.
Okay, so Nathan, I might have... it's not going to turn out to be the hypothesis, of course, the missing hypothesis, but way back in my Flat Earth talk shows, one of the earliest episodes, me and Robert Shortman were talking about like this NASA document we plucked off the internet somewhere, where they were describing how to use lasers to basically write in the plasma in the sky or something like that. So they could create celestial phenomena almost. That's kind of what they were describing with that. So could that maybe be defined in a scientific method, since they are actually manipulating something?
And the thing that they're manipulating is a man-made phenomena.
Laser made?
Laser mate.
No, I didn't do this. No, it's fair. No, I don't mind.
The light.
Clarify what the dependent variable is going to be. And now Aaron's opposite me. I didn't clarify what the DV had to be. I just clarified what the independent variable had to be. I just said, they got plenty of phenomena. Well, what's a phenomena? Well, something occurring in nature, something happening. Well, they observe plenty, right? They show you stuff happening all the time in the sky. Well, that's a phenomena. No worries, they've got plenty of DVs that they can be investigating and formulate a hypothesis for. No problem. Well, it shouldn't be. Right? Am I wrong here? Should be easy. They call themselves science, right? Scientific prediction, please. Doesn't even have to be validated. Don't even need the experiment.
Well, since Arwen started it with math, they're always going to be a fraction off.
Exactly! Boom, boom. That concludes the housekeeping anyway. Feels like a Friday. It's not.
Almost there.
The fact that this goes out on Saturday for most people is irrelevant. Oh, that reminds me, I should really announce that. If you're watching this and it's not live, you won't be watching a replay of the live show. So I'm going to turn it off Thursday and Friday, because I actually replay them throughout the weekend. So this show, together with the pre-show that we discussed earlier on the live show, with the after show, which is yet to be filmed, unless this is coming to you from the future, they will be available to members only until they're released on the second channel. So you've either got to subscribe to the second channel or become a member to actually get the full show. But even the live show, if you're not watching it here and now, tough luck. Thursday and Friday shows are going to get turned off once they finish broadcasting live.
That's okay, because even if they put it out on a Saturday, your audience will not get the weekend of the argument.
You're on fire. But yeah, so the majority.
So this one will go out Saturday?
Exactly. The majority of people who are watching this are actually watching on Saturday.
Reminds me when I first found this show. I used to search all over. I'd get show here, show there. There'd be 2 on Thursday. Oh, it was so exciting.
I pumped out about that level of material in the last month. Needs must, I don't mind confessing, it's because the revenue dropped, so I react to that stuff very instantaneously as soon as I see it happening. So I've pumped out more videos. Now people might go, I just thought you loved us and wanted us to be entertained. Well, yeah, that is the truth of the matter also. I am a YouTuber, that is the primary purpose of what I do. But ultimately speaking, it was reactionary, which I don't think I've ever denied. I don't think I'm fairly open about this stuff. So yeah, I've worked my ass off over the last month just because I've had to. But there we go. When people around me are telling me, the interest in this subject's declining, it's like, well, there is currently something on people's mind aside from this subject, which is fine. That's going to happen. But for me personally, that's not the case. I'm doing quite nicely. I've increased my figures. My revenue might be down, but my numbers are up. So look on the bright side. Happy days. So, I might be scraping by, but ultimately speaking, in terms of a look on the bright side situation as a direct result of working harder, my stats are great. I'm doing really well and better than ever, in fact. So people come in and assume that I'm following the trend of everyone else in Flat Earth. Now, I don't actually know what that is. I don't track that because it would drive you nuts if you make those comparisons. But when people make them for you and show you, you go, well, that's not me. Happy days for me and my channel, because that's not what it's doing.
But Nathan, what about all those people that say Flat Earth is dying for the last 5 years on a daily basis in our chat?
That might be true, Arwin, but first and foremost, this is where I can smile about this statement. Sometimes I'm embarrassed about it when everyone's all on the same point, everyone's on the same song sheet page or whatever. I'm like, well, first and foremost, I'm actually a YouTuber. But when it comes to this sort of situation, it's like, oh, right, the subject that I cover isn't getting as much popularity as usual. Well, I'm here as a YouTuber to entertain the incredibly dedicated audience I now have. That might be because of censorship or whatever, I have no idea. But ultimately speaking, I've got a very dedicated audience that want more. It's like, a lot of YouTubers would kill for that.
That's correct. I remember my wife used to say,
"Yeah,
but you listen to the show already." I'd say, no, this is the Uncut and After show.
Yeah. It's really a compelling show. I catch myself watching to multiple restreams. And they're getting better. They're getting more fluid. We're all getting more secure with what we know and what we do and how we conduct ourselves. The code of conduct in general is getting better and more consistent. So yeah, this show is just very compelling, I think. I love listening it.
A byproduct of all this is your premieres, which are great. So when you're cranking out these little segments, whether they're 5 minutes long to 20 minutes long, or maybe a little bit more, that fills in the gaps. And those are little short snippets you can be sending off to people like I have. So I think it's got a result that maybe you didn't intend, but it's there.
Well, that was a reaction thing as well. People saying they wanted shorter clips. They, for whatever reason, presumably same boat as me, having to work harder, haven't got the time because they've dedicated more time to earning finances where they weren't getting them for obvious reasons we're not going to discuss on the show. But those people haven't got time and they want a clip because they still want to involve themselves and are gutted that they can't sit through an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes of a show. And who can blame them if they've got limited time? I found myself in the same boat. I'm like, I want to watch my own show, as sad as that sounds, but I do. And yet I'm editing a different clip and I'm thinking, I can't do both. And heartbreaking, someone was like, I sent you a big super chat and you didn't even thank me. Well, I'm really sorry. I was just so busy. And I am, I'm working very hard. But talking of super chats, I'll just do a quick shout out to you. Is it Kopanak? Hopefully I've said that correctly. Nathan was enjoying life on his sofa. Oh, that sounds bad. He was one happy man. And then Scam Man Dan comes along to frame and ruins his own religion by destroying his own reference frames. Thanks, Dan. And the rest is history. Yes, indeed he do. I don't think Dan's actually impeded my happiness. I think he's helped it. So long term, thanks. Okay, no, can't give credit where it's due, but Bob Nodell has cemented everyone's minds of what we're supposed to see now. Not because he's claiming it, but because that was the overall theme of how their argument for turning Earth has played out. Blame us for their lack of having Coriolis drift. Put it on someone that's in flat Earth, because then you can keep the argument going when you debunk the lack of drift that they don't see. Well, now we're all clear. 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. Drift being stuff that's not attached, drifting away from you as you turn underneath it. So, excellent. We've got a really concise understanding of what the globe Earth claims should happen. That's turning Earth underneath as a second reference frame. And then roll up, Simon Dan. You and your reference frames are ruined. With an example that shows no drift. And on a globe Earth that's supposed to turn, you're supposed to have drift. And we don't. Now it's all clear. Excellent.
Yes, he did, Neil. He did answer.
Has he answered?
With a red herring, remember?
No, but has he answered since? I mean, he owes his audience.
He can't answer. He doesn't understand angular momentum.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Brian.
Nathan, just on that point you're making there, excuse me, about people not losing interest in flat Earth, that's people who are saying that are not, they're not thinking. What's happening is flat earthers are less and less going into channels like into hangouts like Jose's, because the ballers are becoming more and more irrelevant. The rank and file ballers, and even the more higher up ballers, but the rank and file ballers, they're becoming more and more irrelevant. That's one of the main reasons why people think that flat Earth is losing its gusto or whatever. The other reason, though, is something that's a flat Earther's fault. And that is when the whole situation we're in now turned up, a load of flat earthers, even ones that were around for years, fell into the trap of going off and talking about this and making videos about it and giving that relevancy. And they moved away from flat earth. Not that they weren't flat earthers, they just stopped making flat earth content. And that is also a big factor. So it's not that flat earth people have lost interest in flat earth, it's that flat earthers went off and made videos on a different subject that they should have just left alone. And they also are more and more not going into places, hangouts like Jose's, because those people are becoming irrelevant to us. They're not helping anymore, they're no good. There's nothing they have for us. So we move away from them.
Not helping not helping who from whose perspective? Not helping the globe side from their perspective? Because for me, when I hear that, I'm hearing Simon Dan being irrelevant to the globe side on account of the fact that all he's doing is debunking their own arguments now. Well, is that what you mean? Or do you mean irrelevant to the flat earth side because they're not offering any arguments to actually claim the Earth's a sphere anymore? Whose perspective? From whose perspective?
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying from our perspective where they are becoming irrelevant to us. We don't need them anymore. We don't need them like we did a year ago, 2 years ago. We don't need them now. And so they're having to do stupid things to get attention. But that's the problem. We don't need them rank and file people anymore. They've outlived their usefulness in a lot of ways, or they're in the process of. So that's what I mean by that.
Okay. People on the panel, do you agree? The globe tard? Go on.
Not necessarily, but they've certainly outlived their strategies. That's for sure. But yeah, the globers in their own way psychologically test us just as much. So I still think that having globers around is worth it. It's just that, yeah, for us it's become like infinitely easy now to just recognize what's going on with them. And it's not in what they do among themselves is not really that interesting anymore, unless they think that they're smashing flat Earth with some ridiculous argument that actually contradicts their own model, of course. But other than that, yeah, they still try to test us, and that's always good. If everybody would be like, yeah, flat Earth, yeah, sure. then how much attention would we be getting? You know? I don't know.
Well, what I would say about that is that if you play a video game and you get past a level, let's say you get past level 5, do you keep on playing on level 5 or do you move to level 6? And that's where we're at. They are still around. They're not after becoming totally irrelevant, but they're in the process of it. I personally have lost interest in talking to them. There is nothing they have that's worth arguing about, because all they can do is circle back to the same nonsense they always circle back to. The same stuff they can't demonstrate and they can't prove, they don't have scientific experiment for. So I don't know, from my point of view, I just see them as becoming kind of drifting away into the darkness kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, they are. But it's still good to behold this, to see the result of their choices or where they've ended up, you know? Never let any mistake slip you by without learning as much of it as you can, even if it's not your mistake. That's my concept around it.
Well, I think it's becoming high time where there's going to be a lot more people, because flat earth is a lot more accepted, there's going to be more people in the next 2 or 3 years coming out as flat earthers who are in high positions in careers, let's just say. And I think it's more of a case of we are heading towards more higher level mainstream science, like the likes of, sorry Nathan? I was just saying that the likes of Professor Brian Cox is not going to be able to keep on avoiding us. The day is coming for him and all the likes of him.
Well, look, the mainstream wizardry guys that really play into the believers that want to believe. Look, the believers that want to believe are still going to keep on listening as long as they can maintain their suspense of disbelief about reality. So, yeah, they'll just keep carrying on, but they're not going to win over the flat earthers anymore. Not that they technically ever did.
That's why people like Simon then are kind of irrelevant. Because even if he, like, all right, he's put himself out here into this argument, into this, well, I don't want to say debate because he doesn't really debate, but he's put himself into this topic, right? Well, even if he destroys himself and his reference frames and all his arguments, right, his followers don't need to hold on to him. They could just turn him off and just find some other clown that's a globe proponent that could just spew their ridiculous rhetoric all day long to confirm their bias. They don't need him. He's nobody special, right?
Yeah. All they do is just watch it to, how can you say, make themselves feel better. That's all.
And what does he do? He just goes to Google, spews out the first thing that Google says about their globe, and then regurgitates it to his followers. So they don't need him to do that. They could just cut out the middleman, go to Google themselves, and confirm their own bias.
Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Hey, Adam.
Good to have you.
Hey, Adam.
What's up, man?
I think we need him. I think we need him to remind us where we've come from. Excuse I've had another dental extraction, so excuse the dodgy voice. But I think we need them there. At the moment, as badly as they're behaving, as poor as their argument is, we need them there for the newbies to see that this is the best the ball has to offer, and that actually all they have is religious faith in their ball. And we're talking observations or any science, that sits quite happily on our side. And when they go into these arguments and you listen to half an hour's chat with them, obfuscating with Nathan, it becomes apparent even to a layman that the ball has nothing. So I still think we need them. We personally don't, but I think the forum does.
Yeah, good answer. I agree.
Yeah, me too. That was basically another way of saying what I tried to say. There's so much we can and should learn because we were there. And if we get used to our newfound insights too much, we might forget how tough it actually was to get there. So it's good to remind ourselves by confronting ourselves with the people that haven't reached this.
And you spoke of that, I was thinking, we can, we must, we do.
Think of gravity as a force.
We do.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey.
Hey, Tony.
Have you?
Hey up, Meekin.
All right, mate.
Hey, Meekin, have you got fight the flat earth stuck between your teeth? Have you been eating food before you come in? Because you sound like you're struggling with like something stuck between your teeth.
I had a filling and 2 teeth out, and I literally, honestly, I'm like John Merrick at the moment. I'm not an elephant.
It sounds more like you've got fight the flat earth stuck between your teeth. You know, like you need to floss a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say something, but I held back.
I was just wondering, guys. You were talking about how Simon Dan and gas pressure, and how he's not addressed that point. Sorry, axial rotation, and now he's not addressed that point. Let's not forget about Conspiracy Cats, who's also been ducking and diving for the last 2 years about the gas pressure point. He does not want to answer it. He did say initially that what did he say now? Gravity. He said that gravity pulled it down originally, but then he said that you didn't need to have any container. After saying things like without the balloon there can be no pressure, and a few other comments that he's made basically supporting our assertion that you need some kind of balloon or container of some kind because we've got gas pressure. Well, where's that gas pressure come from? And he's completely swerved that for a good 2 years. So it's not just Simon Dan swerving, it's Conspiracy Cats too. We need to pin these points on people more often because they're really detrimental. That's why the ballers can't join the hangout, Nathan, because they know they're going to die. That's what's going on.
Do you think I should put a bit more focus on the fact that Simon Dan hasn't responded for a year?
Yeah. And Conspiracy Cats, don't pin them both together as sheep in the same pen.
I like quoting him. It came up a few weeks back, and I'm like, yeah, it works really well in quotation marks in the chat. But you're right, it only works because he hasn't addressed it. He's dodged the question. How can you have gas pressure without a container?
I noticed that he did respond to that point. I'm on about Simon Dan. He did what looked like a hurriedly responded video, like he was on the go. And rather than address the point, he made some like nonsense insult up instead to avoid addressing the point, which is what all the ballers have got to do. They can't address the point on topic. They've got to move away on off topic and say something stupid like, oh, do you drink your own piss or something stupid like that? Well, address the point. Stop making excuses about not answering and swerving around the topic with some kind of insult instead, which is the classic textbook definition of ad hominem. And how's about actually answering the point? Because then we can all go home, right? Can't have gas pressure without a container, and then your model's debunked. Come on, Simon Dan, address it. Earth turn, same thing. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. He owes his subscribers. There's people subscribe to him, and he's not coming up with an answer. Looks very, very bad.
Cat said,
you must think his subs are looking for an answer. I doubt that.
Cat had provided a definitive statement on that 2019, Nathan, didn't he? Without the container, there can be no pressure.
Correct. He's got 2 quotes, so Anthony's given the first one. Without the balloon, there is no pressure. And his second one from 2019, without the container, there can be no pressure.
Yeah, but there's now a third one though. When Tommy Hench went up against him and he asked him 18 times, "How do you have gas pressure without a container?" After the 17th occasion of swerving, ducking, diving, swimming around it, jumping over it, doing everything possible to avoid answering the question, eventually he did answer the question and he said, "You don't need one." That's his third statement. Do you want me to get a clip so you can hear it?
If you've got one, I'll play it.
I'll dig it out and give me 2 minutes.
No worries.
Yeah, because I remember he said that he would come back to it.
Didn't he first try to rephrase the question and say, "Oh, you guys have been asking the wrong question. You should phrase it. How do you have pressurized gas without a container?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's within the last few months. That's the most recent. Well, we've got them in chronological order at least.
Well, look, I always said if somebody came with a question and put Nathan against the wall and he didn't come up with an answer and he was chucking and jiving and trying to get out of the way, I would unsubscribe. I expect an answer. So these guys should expect an answer. On the other side, I'd want an answer.
You're right, and we discussed that in the pre-show, and I totally agree with you. But now I've heard Chocolate point out that, and I thought about it after Chocolate said it. Yeah, his people aren't looking for that. They're looking for confirmation bias, right, Chocolate?
Exactly. They don't need to go to him for that. Like I said, he goes to Google and just spews what he looks up, right? So they could do the same thing. All they're doing is looking for that confirmation from somebody else to do it for them. So they could look and say, oh, look, this guy's got all these subs and all these subs agree with him. So my agreement with him must be valid. So everything's gravy, right? Yeah. If he gets debunked or if he gets made to look silly, they don't care. They could just turn him off and go to the next clown.
Yeah,
they got plenty of time for comfort.
If for comfort, yeah, the most of the time, the majority of the time, they're actually seeking the base level confirmation bias, which is that flat earthers are stupid. So the ones that do the best are the ones that say flat earthers are stupid, right in the thumbnail.
And Nathan, I've sent you that link in Skype. If you just, it's time stamped, ready to go. So just if you just open it up and just move it on screen, everybody will see it. This is like 17 times of swerving it, and eventually he answers the question. And listen to his answer now. So gone are the days when he said, "Without the balloon, there can be no pressure." This is literally what his position is now. He just says, "We don't need one." It's brilliant.
It doesn't actually come with the timestamp. What was the timestamp?
9:45. Towards the end.
Lives. This is why gas pressure is pinned against ducats. First.
How do you get the pressure first? Well, there's no need at all for a container to get gas pressure. It's like, how do you get the gas pressure? You have the gas pressure by having gas there.
My God. Thanks.
Just by having gas. By having gas, you therefore have pressure.
Yeah, I've got news for you, conspiracy cats. Without the container, there can be no pressure.
Yeah, fundamentally, that's incorrect, isn't it? That last statement. The others I'd agree with, but fundamentally, you can't have even the air around you. You wouldn't have the return vectors. Without the container, it's the container that creates the multitude of vectors, all directions.
Correct. You wouldn't get the return vectors, no. You would only get like the odd random molecule randomly passing by every now and again, because it's eventually you are going to get hit by a molecule in the infinite volume of space, because there will be something that eventually hits you. But it'd be like buses. You get nothing for ages, and then you get 3 in 2 minutes, and then you get nothing for ages again.
Yet, moreover, that's what it would be at sea level. We'd have absolutely no gas here at all, because it would have all taken a vector away from us and then dissipated into the vacuum of the sky. So that would be the situation at sea level, waiting for gas particles to move past us like buses that come every 15 minutes.
Yeah, but you would get the odd molecule bouncing off things like, on their model, bouncing off things like the moon and Jupiter and whatever, and making a return path from that, vector.
Yeah, but at sea level, we'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr.
That's right.
But Warrior, that would actually be incorrect because of gravity. It would just go to the moon and stay by the moon.
It'd stick to it like Velcro.
No, you're getting confused.
Yeah.
That's what happens mathematically in a bending conceptual medium, Flatsoid. So, no.
Like they want to just change the definition of gas pressure to just gas. Oh, you have gas, so you just have gas pressure.
Yeah, we have a moron in chat. His name is John something or other. Let's see if we can find his name quickly. He basically distinguishes against gas pressure with atmospheric pressure. And we all know how to deal with that. Just look at the definition for atmospheric pressure, and you can see that it's defined as both mass times by the acceleration due to gravity. Well, we know that there's no acceleration due to gravity, and whatever you want to define mass as, gas molecules have only the molecule itself of mass. They don't have a collective weight because they don't have any intermolecular bonding to make them have an atmospheric weight. So they're all individual molecules zipping around at high speed, bouncing off things that shouldn't be there because they've all zipped off into space. So there is no mass because there's no collective mass, and there's no acceleration due to gravity. But just because they've got a formula that they think seems to work, then that's enough for them. But when you apply the definitions, they don't like it.
Tell them 2017 call that wants its argument back.
Yeah.
Is the formula reality?
No, math is abstract.
Yeah, but if it works, that's good enough for them. Come on, Nathan. Keyword there was works.
Yeah, work. Yeah, hijacking of a term that in mathematical terms means can be calculated and in physical terms means does something. Well, that works.
Oh, right. So just because the math works, Nathan, doesn't mean it actually real world happens, no?
Yeah, just because you can add 2 and 2 together doesn't mean it can push a table. Work can mean very different things.
But if it works, Nathan, I need it for my religion. Don't take my maths away from me as well.
The maths can work as much as they want it to. It's just maths, it's abstract. But when they juxtapose maths working with physical work being done in reality, they're 2 different things.
That's a bit of a bummer if you think that triangles and like internal angles of triangles have got anything to do with science. Yeah, you can take your jabs at me about it, but it's irrelevant. It doesn't address the problem that we have. We see things accelerating, but you guys need a force, as Newton's first law of motion states, F equals ma in the second. An object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force. Well, you guys need a force to prevent those molecules from disappearing off into space, but you haven't got one, have you? So what's stopping the molecules from disappearing off into space and turning them back to make them fall back to Earth? Because you guys need a force, and you haven't got one.
Or moreover, now finally some synchronicity between these 2 arguments. Or moreover, what space? What space now? What space would it be filling, Anthony?
I think the name gives it away.
Space? A space? For gas to fill? Wow, is that great?
Yeah, Tony, don't forget that there is no force conceivable or actual that could ever prevent gas pressure from expanding in all directions to fill the container.
He's well aware, I assure you.
I love the fact as well that some people, even on our side, still don't like the egg test. Because however you want to interpret the egg test, right? By adding that mass that I did, the salt in the form of table salt, by adding that mass to the medium, it did make the egg move. So we can all agree that the egg did accelerate. That mass, the egg, did accelerate when I added salt. Now, you can argue all day about exactly what was the mechanics behind what went on, but nobody can dispute that by changing or adding the salt to the solution, it did cause an acceleration. Now, remember, in their model, mass is not a force because it's just a number, right? It's relative to something else. It's just a number. But in the real world, by adding just a number to the solution, it caused an acceleration of a mass. Well, therefore, there must be a force there. So you can argue about the ins and outs of it, but you can't change the fact that by adding mass, it did cause an acceleration. Oops.
Yeah, you see, that's why they squirm in weight is a force.
Can you turn that into an equation, Anthony?
Yeah, we can do the arithmetics or the maths for it, but let's stick with the empiricalness of the point. Adding mass did cause an acceleration. Now, Chocolate would normally pipe up and say, "Why did it go in that direction?" Come on, Chocolate.
Why did it go in that direction?
Oh, yeah, because on their model, if you add mass below the egg, it would add to the mass of the Earth, and it would cause an attraction between the masses, and it should pull the egg down. But actually, for some reason, gravity had a day off that day, and it only decided to act on the medium around the egg and pull that down, apparently, and that forced an upwards thrust and pushed the egg up. So then the question is, well, why did gravity choose the medium to act on? I thought mass attracted mass, not mass attracted medium. They don't like that one either.
Now, just address Neil's point. So, Neil, the difference is between qualitative and quantitative. So you can work out how much of something with maths, but the actual cause of the effect, the science bit, matters not how much of it. Once you know what's caused the effect, you've got an IVDV established with an experiment, you can figure out how much after. But you first need to know what the cause is. So the quantity of the cause, if you haven't got it, is irrelevant. And that's the difference between figuring out how much with an equation versus actually defining the cause of an effect that happens in nature. Difference between maths and science, qualitative versus quantitative.
Yeah, maths is put in afterwards as a description value.
And Riley, you shouldn't downplay it. You should. It is an experiment. You were calling it a test, but it's an experiment. You had a naturally observed phenomenon. You had a valid hypothesis.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
But the problem is, chocolate. The problem is, I'm gonna say something, and then I'm gonna counter it. We even have people on our own side that don't like it because they've got their preconceived position with regards to whether gravity is there or not. Now, no matter what you view or how you explain it, right? The bottom line is that it did something. That egg did accelerate, right? So when you start asking for what was the reason and all that, you get people on our side like Bob Nodell that still to this day denies that is what we say it is. It's the relative density disequilibrium that's causing it, because I demonstrated it. I've heard him very recently, basically denying that this is anything to do with debunking gravity. Of course it is. But the problem is, when Bob's right, we'll defend him. And he was right on the 15 degrees of Earth turn. And we defended him because he was right. But it's not, he doesn't seem to realize that when he's not right and he gets criticized for it, rather than considering the criticism, he should be listening to the criticism and then either debunking it or accepting that there's an alternative demonstrating the point. He just completely dismisses it. But the problem is he's got his following. So the likes of Nora and co, they'll support him because they don't want the relative density disequilibrium argument to be a valid, plausible experiment that demonstrates the cause of an acceleration to be something just like mass. They don't want that because they need to have gravity because that's what they think. They want there to be a gravity.
I don't know, Tony, if that's really...
Hang on, whether there is a gravity or there's not a gravity, it hasn't ever been demonstrated. So unless they can isolate the cause by using, say, a tool called a gravimeter, perhaps, and they give that force that they believe that they're measuring a bit of a wiggle to prove that it is the thing that the gravimeters are measuring, how can you not correlate the gravimeter effect as simply being fluctuations between temperature or pressure or humidity, whatever, that's influencing the minuscule, absolutely tiny changes, fluctuations that they attribute to a force called gravity? It's nonsense. They correlate and they accept correlation, but they dismiss cause when I deliberately manipulated it myself. And they're on our side. It's like, how can what's going on here? This is ridiculous.
Hold on. Let's just, Owen, go ahead.
Yeah, look. It's not entirely correct what you're saying because they kind of do recognize relative density. They just call it density, the density laws or whatever. It's older. We're just working out the details utterly. The difference is they want to imagine that they can figure out basically why the axis, just like when we tell relative density, when you explain that to ballers, it's like, but why up and down? Why up and... Yeah, because it's not answered. And that's what they want to pursue. That's what Bob really wants to find out.
So let me address that. You say correctly that he says, well, why specifically that direction, not like 20 degrees or 73 degrees, why 90 degrees and 0, right? Sorry, why 180 and 0, why up and down? And the answer is because it's the same reason why hot and cold are linearly quantified with numbers. In the same way that temperature always goes colder when you remove the heat source, Bob's question is akin to saying, well, why does the temperature always go down when it's because we give it that number, that direction, because that's relative to us. Well, directions are also relative to us. So we perceive forwards and backwards, up and down, left and right, relative to us. That's why my right is your left, because they're not the same. But we have relative directions and we give it that relative direction a name. And that's why it's up and down. Essentially, it's more dense or less dense than the medium that you're in. But Bob needs it to be up and down because he wants to claim that there's something influencing that up from down bias. But we know what it is, Bob. It's the medium. The density of the medium that we're in is very, very slightly off a vacuum. It's there, but it's very slightly off a vacuum, and that's the bias.
Yeah,
but hold on.
That's why they're
entirely complete, though, because
Hold on, just 1 sec.
We prove the forces, basically. We prove what conjures the force, what causes that, the relative density disequilibrium. But that process in itself explains exactly the cause, why it happens, and then how much it happens even. But it does not explain why the setting of these directions. And that is just more the only thing you can really go at this point is philosophy or
hold on before you go off on a tangent. Anthony just did though, so it's relative to you. There are no absolute directions, it's all relative. Now you might be able to argue that the magnetic north is an absolute direction, but other than that it's all relative. Anthony did probably the best and most concise job of describing that I've ever heard him do. It's relative. Your left hand being your right hand to the person opposite you. That's a very good way of describing it, Anthony.
But then the problem is then that because some people want there to be a gravity or something influencing the bias, it's the refusal to accept that we can demonstrate this within scientific method, and the fantasy that you believe might well exist can only be done with exploring the world of pseudoscience or Narnia. That's the distinction between the 2 points. So whilst I'm happy to accept that Bob can ramble off with Narnia, at least I acknowledge that he's doing it in the context of pseudoscience nonsense. But Bob can't accept that we've done it within scientific method, and therefore it's got credibility to it. He just completely dismisses it. And that's completely that's unreasonable when we can all accept that there may well be something there, but if there is, we need to demonstrate it.
That's how we can round this off.
He just moved on.
Just 1 second, Darwin. So that's where we started, so might as well round it off with that point. What's it to you?
It seems like it's controlled opposition from our own side. When we can demonstrate.
Way to ruin your own argument in one foul swoop.
No, that's the answer.
We can demonstrate way as Anthony.
He just loves gravity, Tony.
It's entirely up to him what he believes in. It's entirely up to him what he believes in. It's no skin off your teeth, and you appeal to the people who follow him. More power to them. What's it to you?
Well, I just find it a little bit obtuse that one that can be demonstrated within scientific method gets dismissed by Bob, but he's happy to pontificate around pseudoscience, but refuse to acknowledge that it's pseudoscience. It's like you're pushing the very thing that we criticise and challenge.
I've heard all that. Just what's it to you? What's no skin off your teeth, right? Just ignore him if it bothers you.
It's just that he's got an influence within people that don't have the brains to think for themselves and accept his word. And rather than accept his word, they reject the demonstration that's counter to his word. And those people are
hold on, just 1 second,
brainwashed.
I'm nearly there with Anthony. Do you remember the little pep talk that I gave Roxanne? You remember that?
Which one?
She was saying that the controlled op narrative of the media was the people were looking to them and seeing them as the people they should follow. And I said, well, you be the person they follow. You tell them what's what. If you were telling me, like you've told me in this conversation, Roxanne, I'd follow you. And the same applies to you. So, okay, who cares? He Bob, no doubt in this example, is the equivalent to what you're considering in your world, the controlled op media narrative that stands on the other side of the fence with the press pass. That's the equivalent. Well, be the person the people should follow. Don't concern yourself with those people on the other side of the velvet rope, if that's how you perceive him. So what?
Yeah.
Bob wants to be the smartest guy on the block.
Come on. Anthony reply, and then
Tony seems to be concerned about how many followers just follow in his footsteps. Well, guess what? Is it about numerics, about people expressing their opinions on what they believe? Or is a bigger problem that people just tend to hang with other individuals and their opinions instead of from bottom up constructing their own, and then dare criticize other people for having an oppositional opinion? Is that maybe the problem?
I managed to get the last word. So with that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!